Alright, it's time to rank the heroes of the DCEU from worst to best. How would you rank them in the comments?
Didn't think you were real. I'm real when it's useful.
Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of the heroes of the DCEU worst to best. And I have intentionally picked this time when we're still, at the time of this video being posted, we are a few months out from Aquaman releasing on the big screen. And I did this on purpose because here's what I want to do. I want to go through Man of Steel through Justice League and rank the heroes of the DCEU worst to best. And once I've ranked how they are presently for me, I then want to make my predictions. How will the release of Aquaman and the release of Shazam change up my list? And then I'll be excited to revisit this when we get Aquaman and when we get Shazam. So that's kind of the goal of what I'm doing here. Now, how would you rank the heroes of the DCEU worst to best? And how do you think the release of Aquaman and Shazam will impact your ranking? Let's do our rankings and our predictions in the comments below. Number 6. Cyborg. Cyborg falls here at number 6 and last place, not because they did a bad job with him in Justice League. I think Ray Fisher did a great job playing Cyborg. He falls in last place because I feel like he's so not fleshed out. Like there's a whole part of his character arc that is not there. Now let me compare Cyborg to the Cyborg from the animated movies. Justice League War, probably one of my favorite animated Justice League movies. That was an origin of how the Justice League came together, and they still had the time to flesh out a character like Cyborg, where Justice League War was his origin story and how he came to be. They showed us him playing football. They showed how he loves his father and he wants his father to be proud of him. And they showed how his father, does love his son and is proud of his son to a degree, but in a world of Kryptonians and metahumans and Batman-like vigilantes, what's football? And so that was a unique dimension that added character both to Victor Stone and his father. It added dimension to their relationship. I want to see the DCEU's unique take on that, and I feel like I didn't get that. And now I've seen, the deleted scenes and how that is on the cutting room floor. So, I've seen how that stuff is there. It's just, got cut from the movie, which actually just breaks my heart. I really wanted to see that. I feel like that would have added dimension to this character and would have bumped him up much further on my list. Number 5, The Flash. The Flash is here at number 5 for the same reasons that Cyborg is at number 6. Like I said, the DCEU, they kind of got their unique take and their unique twist on things. And so what I'm missing is their unique take and their unique twist on The Flash and his origin. And I'm kind of sad I didn't get that. Now I get it. As a culture, we've done so many superhero movies, and origin stories are all almost the same thing, so I get it. There's a sense in where we're just kind of done. Can we just dive into the hero? But at the same time, for me, that kind of robs me of their character arc and seeing how, in this interpretation, how they're going to grow and how they adapt to their powers. For instance, with The Flash, how did he get his powers in this universe where with Man of Steel, we've established we're trying to make this more realistic and more gritty. What would it be like for an alien like this to exist in this universe? I loved that look at that in Man of Steel, and I wanted something similar in The Flash. So how, in some sort of realistic way, are we going to create metahumans? How, in some weird way, is that going to happen? Plus, I want to know more about Flash's Central City. I want to get to know Iris. I want to get to know Joe. I want to meet these interpretations of these characters that belong to this universe before I get the Flash solo, or get the Flash in a, team-up movie. I thought Ezra Miller did a fantastic job as that character. I thought he was funny. He was a great comedic relief, so I loved the character. What I want is more. I want something solo where that arc can be fleshed out and filled out and make me kind of feel better about him just kind of being thrown into Justice League. So that's kind of where I am there. Number 4, Aquaman comes in at number 4 because I love Jason Momoa's interpretation of Aquaman. Just walking on the pier, drinking his whiskey, throwing the bottle down, jumping into the waves. It's yeah! That's a kind of cool modern interpretation of Aquaman. Now, in Justice League, there's only hints of his past. There's hints of the fact that he's going to the bars, he's drinking his whiskey and tossing it down because he doesn't feel like he belongs to the human world because of his crazy Aquaman meta powers, but he doesn't belong, to Atlantis because of his human genes and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to the solo Aquaman movie to kind of flesh this out a little bit more. But as it is, I enjoy Jason Momoa's interpretation of Aquaman. I enjoyed how, like, tough and awesome it made Arthur Curry. And I enjoyed his humor where he walks up to Batman and goes,
"Just like a bat. I dig it."
and the scene where he's sitting on the lasso of truth.
You say a word about this, you'll meet every piranha I know.
Like, great moments like that. See, that's what I love about Justice League. I might be able to find fault with so many other things with that movie, but the cast who played the heroes I love, and I thought they all did a great job together. And Jason Momoa is no exception, man. He did a great job in that character of Aquaman, and I was really anticipating that because I liked Justice League Throne of Atlantis, and I liked the interpretation of Aquaman there. It made Aquaman a character that I think is really cool, so I was looking forward to see what the DCEU is going to do with that, and I think they did a good job with that in Aquaman, or with Justice League. Now I'm looking forward to the solo Aquaman to see, okay, how are they going to flesh this out? What are they going to do with this story? So I'm very much looking forward to that. Number 3. Batman. Ben Affleck's interpretation of Batman, I loved it, man. I was digging it. I thought he was just an awesome live-action on-screen Batman. I thought he was a good Bruce Wayne. I thought he was an even better Batman. I love that this Batman had a suit where he could, like, you know, turn his head. Who would have thought that would help Batman be cooler? And the fact that he had mobility, and I think everybody and their mom agrees that the warehouse fight was just absolutely incredible. My real problem with it, and why he doesn't get up to number 2 or number 1, is because this was a Batman that killed all over the place. He just, you know, killed random thugs hither and thither. That whole scene with the Batmobile, he just killed those people in those other cars. Just didn't even give it thought. So here he wants to bring Superman into accountability and bring that guy down because somebody with that much power has no accountability. And then he, without accountability, goes out and starts killing people all over the place. I got a problem with that. And I have another brother-in-law who says, well, Batman killed in the comics back in the day. He used to carry a gun. And to that I say, well, fine. I'm a fan of this Batman. This Batman that draws the line, because if he kills, then he's nothing more than a vigilante killer. Just like any other bad vigilante that's out there, or any other bad, crazy villain out there wearing a costume. He wants to be separate from them. So what he's going to do is bring them to justice. But it's not about him killing, because killing would put him on that same level, and he will not descend down to the level that they are on. There has to be a difference between him and them. There has to be a difference between what he's doing and what they're doing. And then you have this movie where that was gone. Now, they drop hints that he's in a dark space right now. You get the Robin suit. Ha ha, joke's on you. So we know the Joker has killed Robin. So we know he's in a lot of pain. We know a lot of things have put him in that darkness. And it put him over the edge so that when Superman appeared, he suddenly was so insecure because now he's powerless yet again to this being. He's powerless when his parents died. He's powerless when it comes to Superman. He was powerless to save Robin. So I could get that. I could understand that. Except that this movie didn't spend a lot of time on his arc. We kind of just jumped right in the middle of his story with Easter eggs to why he's so angry, but we didn't get to see that arc where he's the Batman that we know, and then the arc that brought him straight to that dark place and made him this, like, killer of random thugs. And then all of a sudden he's more cheerful in Justice League. Like, there's not much consistency between BVS and Justice League. And I get it. Superman inspired him. It's like, really? How did Superman inspire you? You almost killed him, and then you fought side by side with him with Doomsday, and then he died, and you felt bad about it. Yes, but I don't know, like, it just wasn't enough. There was a dimension that was missing there. There was a dimension of Superman that was missing that would have given power to Batman's conversion back to the way that he was. And there was a dimension of Batman missing where we didn't see the arc that brought him to the darkness and why Superman would push him back into the light. So there was a little bit of stuff we were missing there, and that's why he falls at number 3. Number 2 and number 1 are pretty darn hard for me because I love the Wonder Woman of the movies, but I have a Superman bias, and I can admit that I have a Superman bias. He is my favorite hero, period. However, coming in at number 2, Superman. Now, I would love to have Superman higher. In fact, if it was Man of Steel alone, I think Superman would have been higher because Henry Cavill, I think, is a fantastic Superman. He looks the part. He is the part. I like the fact that he's kind of this shyer, more reserved character, but when he talks, I mean, he's got this air of authority and confidence. So I like Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. And what I especially like about Man of Steel is we see a more gloomy Superman because he's afraid. He's in a world that fears what's different, and he is the most different you could possibly get. And yet, he has such compassion in his heart that if there's trouble, he has to act. It's how Lois Lane found him. It's a whole series of crazy supernatural sounding rescues. It was a trail of breadcrumbs that led her to Clark Kent in Smallville. She was able to find him because he can't help it. If there's trouble, he intervenes. And so even though he's lost in the world and he's a bit more grim in this film, we still get a sense of his compassion that compels him to act when there's trouble. So by the end of Man of Steel, he's Superman. Now here's what I was talking about with BVS, the dimension of Superman that was missing. With Batman vs. Superman, we really did do a great job into getting into the world's reaction to Superman. Their fear of him, their love for him, and getting into Clark. How their fear of him and their hatred towards him and what everybody says about him in the media and the news, how it irritates him, how it gets under his skin, and that's part of what makes him more grim in Batman vs. Superman. You have Lex Luthor with this clever plot that wherever Superman goes, there's destruction, and it's getting in his head and creating all this self-doubt. So we did a good job with that. So with all of this self-doubt and this irritation, what we're missing is, why with that self-doubt and irritation does he still put on the cape and go save people? What compels him to do that? And I just feel like, since we're getting into a greater dimension of the public reaction of Superman, so if we're getting into that greater dimension of hate, we need to get into that greater dimension of his compassion, so that Batman's conversion has more power to it, because Batman sees in Superman what he wanted to be. He wanted to be somebody who brought criminals to justice in a corrupt world. And so when he sees Superman, and he sees that light that's in Superman, it has even more impact. You could tell in the movie he was supposed to see that, but I feel like there's a general agreement that when we watch Batman vs. Superman, he's a pretty dark and grim Superman, and he is. And I feel like because I know the character, I can see the compassion and the light that's in him. But from a storytelling perspective, I think I would have liked to have gotten in there and done more work showing the hope and compassion that he has and what compels him to save people even when they are all seeing the worst in him. Number 1, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is my number 1 favorite hero of the DCEU right now because she is the most consistent character throughout the DCEU. I guess some of my negatives is when I watch Gal Gadot play Wonder Woman, there is a little bit of rigidness to her character, a little bit of rigidness to some of her movements and things like that. But there's a part of that that works, especially in the first Wonder Woman, because she's incredibly smart and intelligent, but she's never been in the world of men, so she's quite naive. So there's an element where some of that rigidness plays in and works perfectly because it plays well with the naivete that she has. But they did a great job showing you the hope and compassion that's in her heart, and how seeing all these people in World War I and, you know, trying to escape the village and all the pain that they're in, hitting the horses with whips, and how she wants to show them a better way, how she wants to help the injured. She just can't help herself. She wants to help, and they did such a great job with that. They did such a great job with her disillusionment at the end of the movie. They did a great job bringing her back in with Batman vs. Superman and that little smile she has on her face when Doomsday knocks her down. She smiles, she gets up. It's awesome. And then you have Justice League. And her character is still consistent going into Justice League. She's such a strong character in the DCEU, and she's been consistent that way. And so I feel like we've seen her character grow. You know, Wonder Woman stepping back out to become a hero again and things like that. So, like, it's been interesting to watch her character grow through Batman vs. Superman, prequel of Wonder Woman, and then into Justice League. So it's been a lot of fun to see that character growth. And so I think because of her consistency and because of, like, the quality of her movie, she is my favorite of the DCEU. But now it's time to dive into some predictions. So, first prediction, in December, we have Aquaman coming out. When I see that solo movie, I predict that Aquaman and Batman are going to switch places on my list. I think Aquaman's going to come in at number 3, and it's going to bump the Ben Affleck Batman to number 4. Because I feel like once I get this Aquaman fleshed out, and I see his solo story, I see his world, and I see his universe, And the trailers, his character looks very consistent with the character that we met in Justice League. And it looks like we're going to see that character grow and have a fuller arc from one place to the other as he grows to become the King of Atlantis. So I feel like it's going to be really awesome to dive into that character, to dive into his mythology and into his world. And I feel like that is going to make me love that character all the more. And I think he's going to go down to my number 3 with Batman at number 4. And then we got Shazam coming out here in the spring. Now, that trailer was so fun. I was laughing. You could check out my reaction. I was blown away by how fun that trailer was. And I just cannot wait to see that movie. So based right now on my excitement and my expectations and how much fun and joyous that trailer was, if the movie conveys all of that, and really gets me introduced to this character, and I have a lot of fun with this character, I honestly think there is a good chance that this will fall in at number 2, number 3 on my list. Well, probably number 3. I have a hard time thinking something's gonna bump Superman higher up that list, because again, I think Henry Cavill's pretty solid, and I like Superman despite some of the weaknesses I named earlier. I still think it's an excellent portrayal of Superman. So, okay, so maybe that'll put Aquaman back at number 4, with Shazam at number 3, and thus putting Batman at number 5. Oh man, poor Batman. I love Batman. I really, really do. This is not anything negative towards Batman, but as I'm sitting here kind of predicting this in the interpretation of the DCEU, that's kind of where I'm at right now. What do you think? What are your predictions, and what is your current list? Let's talk about it in the comments, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian, hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified the next time I do a ranking video like this, movie review, theological analysis, or anything else. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.